All right, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA today with Fergus the Future Jenkins on the eve of his next fight over in Europe on the IMMAF World Championships, bro. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me, bro.
Bro, it's been a while since we had a chat. You had a couple of fights back in New Zealand, and now you're back to defend your title in the championships, bro. How does it feel?
It feels amazing, man. It feels a whole lot more special than last time because it's basically been building for a whole year. I mean, it felt like the last opportunity to fight for the world title that sort of came all of a sudden. It wasn't something I've been building towards, but yeah, ever since I won the last time, I knew I want to come back and win it again. So it's been a goal of mine for over a year. So that the anticipation has really built up.
I've heard a couple of your interviews, and I get the impression that you feel like you've developed somewhat since then, talking about your flow state in the fight, your last fight, and just some of your training regimes and routines and stuff have developed a bit. Is that right?
Yeah, and since I made that claim, developed even further. I mean, going up to Auckland and training up there was huge. This is a wealth of knowledge, and I was able to acquire a lot of that and implement that into not just training harder, but training smarter, thinking more, being more cerebral, not just unconsciously training bad habits, like really thinking about what you're doing and the end product that you want to create and dialing your training in to fit that mold.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in talking about that. So you went to CKB, training with Eugene Behrman and obviously his other coaches there. You mentioned again in an interview about not being able to take on a whole new style because you've only got a limited time, right? You're not going to be able to fully develop a CKB style in that time. What sort of benefits did you get from that half camp you did there?
Huge amount. So first of all, there was the physical benefits of following the intense conditioning regime every day, basically. So yeah, just training like one of the pros up there along with the UFC boys. Getting that push, just being around a bunch of other highly motivated people. So in terms of the fitness and the strength and conditioning side of things, it was massive. In addition, like the mental side, like competing with tough guys every day, like a much bigger pull than you get in Christchurch, especially over Christmas time when most people are away going back home, or yeah, just the gym's very quiet at that time. So being able to go to Auckland, getting those tough guys to compete against is huge for the mental side and getting the competitiveness sharpened up for this competition. And technically speaking, yeah, you're right. I definitely don't want to throw away what I'm already doing and try and pick up a bunch of new skills. But that's when it comes in handy having a great coach like Eugene, who's world class. He knows how to train an athlete, and he understands the context in which I'm coming up, which is just for a few weeks. He hasn't got a few years to build me into the fighter that he's, say, like in Israel Adesanya, where he had years and years to develop that specific style. So I think he understood that, and he was very generous and gracious with his time and took time to teach me and apply a lot of the concepts. And what he was looking to do was apply things that can make a big difference in a small amount of time. So things that aren't a huge time commitment, it's not going to take me months and months or years to learn, but are going to make a big difference in my game. So just some small technical refinement. And I felt like the best way I could show respect for him teaching me like that is just to really try and understand and apply those concepts as good as I could. And that's something I think I've done. And in a short space of time, that's allowed me to make a huge, boost my game hugely, especially in the striking side of things, training at City Kickboxing.
Nice, man. I was listening to Eugene talk about Tyson Pedro the other day, and he was saying how coming into train at that gym, that quite often people are a bit overcome by the intensity of the training, the physical intensity of the training there. Did you find there was anything that you were shocked by in that sort of side of things, or was it something similar to what you've been doing already up with Karl?
Oh, no, it's definitely a step up. I think, yeah, like I even talked to Eugene about it. He says it's pretty borderline in terms of overtraining. yeah, you kind of got to figure out where your body's at, and some people have got to take her down a bit because it's just too much. But I felt like as long as I was keeping up my recovery, getting my sleep, getting my diet right, I was able to keep up with it for sure. But I think it is as much as a physical sport as it is, it's also about that mental push. So I think having such an intense regime like that, it's training your mind to stay assertive when you're in chronic fatigue, and just to acquire the mental toughness that it takes to make it in the sport. So, and it to be honest, it took me to another level physically, and I kind of realized I could be doing more. So when I came back to Christchurch, I brought that mindset back, and I set my training up to another level, and so as well as some huge technical development that I got, courtesy of the training that I got up there. Also, just a huge amount of physical development to feel so much stronger and fitter, and mentally more in a place where I can push myself to that extra level. And that's been another huge development.
Man, and being at that gym, CKB gym, I've dropped in there before on a holiday and just watched Dan train and watched some of the classes and that. Did a little bit of training on the side, and it was pretty impressive gym, like a very, very big gym, lots of talent there, man. Is there anyone in particular that you trained with there that kind of stands out to you, like people that you really enjoyed training, or you were kind of blown away by their skill set, etc.?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. That's the thing. Like Dan obviously stands out. Dan's such an amazing fighter, especially when you get to see it in person. And I don't think it's always like it's not the physical attributes all the time with him. He's just got such a refined style that he's developed over the years, and it's cool seeing it in person and how he's managed to turn that into such a successful career. So, I mean, that's just one of the names that stands out. There's definitely a lot of guys that you don't know, like they're not famous, they're not big name UFC fighters, but they've got a huge amount of skill. So you definitely see a lot of those guys. I was super grateful for John Barker, who helped me a lot. Details of my wrestling, was just super gracious and good to be around at the gym and really welcomed me in. And really everyone was great. But yeah, that's it.
What is it, man, that makes the difference? And just something that always kind of spins me out a little bit. Like I watch the guys fight. I've watched Dan as an example fight from when he was younger, when he fought over in Macau and in Hong Kong. And I actually had the opportunity to go over with Aaron and Karl. And I remember watching him train on the pads. I can't remember if it was in Macau or Hong Kong at the time. He was doing basic combination of jab, cross, left kick. Then when I went to New Zealand, I saw Eugene, and Eugene's holding him for the same combination, and like everyone can throw a jab, cross, left kick, and that's something obviously I've just caught him a couple of times doing, but it's basic combinations. How does it convert from basic work like that to be a world-class fighter? Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone can throw that jab, cross, left kick, or those basic combinations. What's the difference to be that world champion level or world class level of someone throwing those? Is it timing? What do you think it is, bro? It's this kind of interesting thing. It spins me out a little bit. Like you see someone, you think they're human, but they get in there with someone else that's highly trained and they do really well. So it's just it's a conundrum in my head.
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's a good point that you raised, because I think it's a misunderstanding a lot of times, but it's just really the basics, the well-refined basics that win fights. I mean, you look at like a world-class professional boxer, like they'll win fights just with a 1-2, just with their jab and a straight right hand. And a lot of times that's the best weapon, but it's just those small little technical refinements over years and years of training that set you apart. So like you might call what a beginner's throwing a jab and what an advanced guy's throwing a jab, but it's the small details like the range, the subtle punching mechanics, whether they're telegraphing the punch, whether their footwork is correct so that they can remain balanced after they throw that punch. And all those small details. And training with Eugene, I got exposed so much more, and developed a lot more understanding and passion for like the striking side of things. And I can see that, the difference in how a world-class fighter can make those basics work for them and take them all the way. And I think it's the same concept applies to your grappling. Like you hear about invisible jiu-jitsu, like the whole Hicks and Gracie type thing. And from the outside looking in, especially to a layman, to an uninformed person, it looks like you can't really pick up what they're doing, but it's the subtle details and how they distribute their weight and use the leverage of their limbs to create tension and force. And it's something that you can't see from the outside, but if you've got those really well refined basics, you can feel it when you're the guy having the technique applied to.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is amazing. If you get a good instructor, like one of those really technical people that just loves the technical side of thing and the minor details in gi jiu-jitsu, it's incredible, man. Like people going down to how you're grabbing things with your fingers and just, like you said, weight placement, everything. It's just amazing. It can be so detailed for people that actually love it and really, really study it for their whole life, right? It's amazing to be taught by those people.
That's why I avoid putting the gi on. I don't want to get embarrassed by some jiu-jitsu wizard. I much prefer no-gi. Karl just gave me my purple belt, so the pressure's definitely on the mat now that I've got an added color on my belt.
That's it, bro. Yeah, you got to keep it up, bro. I'm gonna have to have a roll with you one day. I'm a purple belt as well, but I'm probably not.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Hey, bro. So on the we talk a little bit about CKB. Out of interest, what would you say? I don't know if we talked about it. What are the kind of the things that stand out to you about training with Karl Webber and Canterbury Fight Centre, and that? What sort of things stand out in that gym as a comparison?
Well, yeah, it's quite different, I would say. I think the biggest thing that I love about Canterbury Fight Centre is the culture and family atmosphere that Karl's designed. And they have the same thing at CKB, but there's definitely a different feel to it, I would say. Not saying like one's more tight-knit than the other. I would say like the biggest difference between the two gyms is just the scale. CKB is a much bigger gym compared to Canterbury Fight Centre. I would say there's also some similarities though, like they're both super high-level coaches with a great intuition for the sport, great intuition for coaching and for developing athletes. I would say, yeah, and obviously I'm a lot more used to training at Canterbury Fight Centre, so that's more my comfort zone, I would say. Yeah.
What's great is that, I mean, obviously there are connections in the New Zealand fight community, and quite a few of those guys at CKB started out with Aaron Boys and Karl Webber up at the old Strike Force and that. And it's good that you can still get together and train with these guys like this, that you're able to move around gyms and train like that. And it kind of reminds me a bit of the Australian scene with Volkanovski and Freestyle MMA gym, the way they get guys from other gyms and they're working together to kind of push everyone up rather than just sticking to their own gym only. It's a nice thing to see, and it's good for your development. Like you said, you can pick up your game, pick up your things and take them back to your gym as well, and everyone benefits from you, so it's good.
It's cool to hear that they got the same atmosphere over in Aussie on the MMA scene.
Yeah, there's heaps of guys have been training down there. Like you got Jamie Malaki trains at Central Coast MMA, but he goes down and trains with Volk during his camps and also trains back on the Central Coast. And there's quite a few guys that get down there. So it's a real good way of building everyone together, or at least the people in that area that can. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Iron sharpens iron.
That's it, exactly. Now, man, you mentioned that you're in Austria. I know you're over for the fights in Belgrade, Serbia. But what are you doing in Austria?
Well, yeah, my dad actually lives in Austria. Yeah, maybe after the fights. Don't want to break my legs before I go out to compete. So no, I'm in a beautiful little city called Krem. So my dad actually lives here. So I thought, when it got announced that I was expecting somewhere in the Middle East, probably Abu Dhabi again. When it got announced for Serbia, that immediately I was like, oh, that's pretty close to dad. That could be handy actually. So coming out to Europe. So So yeah, I made the flight out a couple of days ago. I've just been chilling in Krems and yeah, staying with my dad, getting used to like getting over the jet lag and getting used to the cold climate at the same time. So yeah, the plan is to drive to Belgrade tomorrow morning. So I'll get there a few days early as well and settle in there in an Airbnb with my dad before we check into the hotel with the rest of the team.
Nice, man. That's nice and convenient, man, and timed well. Now, any feelings come into this combo? Obviously, you mentioned you prepared and everything well. You obviously want to defend the title and get it again. What's the lineup like? Do you get to know who you're fighting and that sort of thing before the competition?
Yeah, so my dad, he's like a data scientist, statistician type guy. So he's actually made up like a full spreadsheet with all the competitors in my weight class, all like links to all their fights and their records and like little details and stats about them. So yeah, I got to thank my dad for for going out of his way to create that. So that's pretty handy. But in terms of actually knowing who I'm going to fight, it doesn't get announced until the day before, like the bracket and how that's going to work. And the biggest thing for me is I just want to pay attention to one fight at a time. I think the mistake a lot of people make going into a tournament like that is to look at their bracket and be like, okay, so when I win this fight, I'll fight the winner of that fight. And then depending on who wins on the other side of the bracket in the quarterfinals, I'll face this guy, or maybe I'll face that guy. And it's like, bro, don't even worry about that. Worry about the guy you're fighting next and let all of that work out. Because if you don't get through that guy, don't have to worry about the round of 16 and the quarterfinals. And I think that helped me hugely last time, which is taking that approach like, oh, it's Groundhog Day. At the beginning of each day, it's just go through the process, go do the weigh-ins, the medical, the warm-up, get my hands wrapped, fight. Follow that process every day. Don't get ahead of myself and just stay in the moment.
You mentioned about having a routine and following a routine. Have you been following a routine that's linked to the IMMAF just to make sure that everything is just normal for you?
What sort of routine? Like
you mentioned something about a routine, like before your training, before your sparring and this sort of thing.
Yeah. I have been doing a lot of that. So trying to just create some rituals that let me know that it's like let me know that it's fight time basically. So I've got a mobility type routine that I do. I've got just some sort of set warm up that trigger in my brain that oh, it's time to fight. So I'll do it before sparring, say, or maybe before Fido when I was at CKB, and that would immediately. Yeah, the idea is that immediately triggers, as I'm going into a fight or flight response, that adrenaline's building up, like, oh, it's time to go.
Yeah, man. I think it was, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Lennox Lewis I was reading or listening to something on a long time ago, and he was talking about building that routine for the fight, that before every, I don't know if it was every training, every sparring session, he'd wrap his hands, like get his hands wrapped by the guys and follow the routine of walking out to the ring and everything, like just to get that real familiarity so that it was nothing new once he got there. And it's something I tried with a couple of amateur guys too. And I think it's worthwhile getting a bit of a routine. So, and like you said, it puts you in the right mindset, right? Gets you amped the right level, not too much, not too little, and ready to go.
Yeah, I definitely do a lot of the visualization as well, just try and make that as vivid as possible, going through what I expect to happen, different situations that could happen, and trying to get myself accustomed to whatever takes place.
That's it, man. And the thing about this, which is making me pretty pumped, is this is our competition, hoping you do well, hoping you win again, defend your title. But the biggest thing for me is you're talking about turning pro shortly after this, yeah? So this is very exciting. I want to see you hit the pro stage, and you've had obviously a good amateur career, 12-0 so far. Going to add a couple of extra wins to that. And that's a quite extensive amateur career compared to quite a lot of guys in the pros. So, you can go in there with good preparation, right? And how are you feeling about it, man? You must be pretty pumped yourself to think about that, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a bit of that same thing, like taking one thing at a time, like what's right in front of me is this competition. But I definitely have thought a bit about it. And I think the biggest thing I can do is put on one hell of a performance in this competition and give it my all. And that's what I've done in preparation. And that's what I'm continuing to do this week, just mentally getting in the right zone to go out there and perform. And the better I do here, going out and winning another world championship and performing even better than I did last time, that's only going to set me up for big things and set me up for opportunities that I might not get otherwise. Just like the better I do here, the more opportunities I'm gonna have, basically.
That's it. And the competition, as you and Karl mentioned last time I talked to you guys together, was this is ideal because you cram many fights into a short period of time that you might not be able to do if you're having single fights on the regional scene in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. You might have one fight every couple of months, and it's not going to get you the same amount of like volume of fights. So let's hope you can rack up another few here, and then hit the pros running.
Yeah, man. No, that's exactly what is amazing about it. You get 5 fights in a week. I'll never get that opportunity again, so I'm just going to enjoy it.
That's it, man.
It was suck flying all this way for one fight and having it done in the first round or something. I'd be like, oh my god, all this 36 hours of flights and fucking jet lag and.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate, isn't it? Like that's what's exciting about the game is you guys put so much time into it that's behind the closed doors. People don't know what you guys are doing necessarily. Training day in, day out, tireless. You talk about Groundhog Day. That's the life of an MMA fighter in a way. It's getting up and training every day, week in, week out. No breaks, slowly building that skill set over many, many years. And then it can go in, it can be over in 5 seconds. You just don't know. So that's the exciting thing about it. And you do what you can.
We love it.
Yeah, that's it. You do what you can to turn it your way, but you just never know. It's like flipping a coin away when you get two highly trained athletes, world-class athletes. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you just got to enjoy the process.
Yeah, you got to be in love with the process, or you wouldn't even be at that level, man. So yeah,
no, it wouldn't be worth it if you're suffering through it. It's the journey, not the result for me, anyway.
Yeah, that's it, man. Anyway, look very much forward to seeing your fights on IMMAF over in Serbia, and looking forward to your success, and then even more looking forward to your next step in your career after that, man. So thanks for your time. Best of luck, and yeah, have fun over there.
Cheers, Toby. Thanks, mate.